Today's the day. I'm saying goodbye to one of my most beloved, sensual, amazing rose favorites over several decades, or at least one decade. And these may or may not be the largest, the most opulent Last Drops episode I've done to date. First things first, I do these so we can close the loop on some of my blind buys, purchases, decants, samples that I get sent, and after careful wear for a prolonged period of time, these are the final reviews, things that were worn on my skin under different conditions, and sometimes fairly final thoughts on certain perfume houses that I may or may not consider purchasing from in the future. So some of these I would consider hot takes, but informed hot takes. And let's start with none other than Serge Lutens. I've received some critique yet again, on my perfume fails, a video about Serge Lutens. Somebody was fairly incensed that I dared not to like certain creations by Serge Lutens, even aggravated by the fact that I've done a perfume house and fragrance review, I think a year or 2 years prior. And I was fairly surprised how it is a contradiction that you can do a thoughtful review of the perfume house and show the things that you like and wear, and years later talk about other fragrances not mentioned before, or even if I do mention twice, that you do not like from the same perfume house. And yet I think we're forever caught in the cycle of some weird witch hunt, these kind of gotcha moments in the perfume community. You're not allowed to change your opinion. You're not even allowed to say that you like this and don't like that, apparently. So this is going to be trigger warning for some people. This is the Serge Lutens that I bought blindly. De Clous pour Pelure, which is a bright blue liquid. Serge Lutens is notorious for constantly changing their bottles, so it's hard to tell what came from where and from what era. They do it periodically for all of their perfumes, they also do it periodically for certain markets. So this is one of the packages for their colognes, their waters as they call them. And this bright blue liquid is supposed to give you this perfect New Year's night feel, as it's perceived in several cultures, when the New Year's night is the smell of champagne often, plus mandarins and oranges, a lot of bright, sweet, bright citruses, and pine needles. It does smell like that indeed. I used up a full bottle, however, only about 10 ml I used on myself in desperate attempts to fall in love with it, and yet it is not my New Year's scent. I still find the best Christmas fir, pine needles, Christmas tree fragrance that I have is Arso by Parfumum Roma, and I do have a full-size bottle of that very expensive Italian scent, so this just doesn't cut it. It was kind of oily, it was long-lasting, it was staining with the blue dye that they put in it nearly every fabric and surface I would put it on. So I would actually consider this a fail. When it comes to citrusy pine needles, I find that Pluriel by the same brand and the same line of waters by Serge Lutens does a better job. It's more delicate, it's more believable. And yet, this bright blue liquid with a name that is hard to pronounce, De Clous pour Pelure, is a favorite by many. Go figure. A complete fail for me, and will never buy this again. I'm done. And most of it I used up on my shoes, deodorizing towels, and things of that nature. Next one, I used up probably, I'd say 20 ml by myself, and the rest of this 75 ml Figue by Molinard, which is a really good, I would say, affordable niche heritage French brand. Very good history, kind of a lot of culture and know-how behind this brand. It's delightful how affordable their fragrances are, especially on the secondary market. Yet, I do find that they lack sophistication often. The Figue is, at best, a more watered-down, fruity version of Diptyque Philosophus. So again, the play here is on the fig tree and the fruits. So it's usually this well-rounded, fruity, milky type of sensation. Very pleasant, but very forgettable. So I used it up as sort of spring light fruity perfume when you just like throw it on because it was standing close enough on the shelf, but it never quite caught on in my world as a beautiful, fruity, fresh fragrance that I would love to use. In that sense, none by Laboratorio, Olfattivo, or MyLO by the same brand, and many other options, including Diptyque Philosophus itself, I find a much more interesting and bright and girly type of fruity fragrances. So most of this was used on linens. Not gonna come back to this again, and I think it's unlikely that I'll buy another Molinard, just because Molinard could do a little, in my view, could do a little better in terms of nuance. It's good. It's not worse than Jo Malone, especially considering the prices of Jo Malone, but it's just, when you have 400 plus bottles, I don't know. Not sure about that. This was a regret. It's not very often that I criticize Jill Sander, but this is the time. Some of the older Jill Sander fragrance releases at Pure Gems, for example, their Simply Touch Off line, everything there is delightful and super cheap, especially Touch of Leather. But their Sunlight Rose and Grapefruit, their Sunlight line, like a lot of their other lines, are just really mediocre. Like really mediocre. So not everything is a gem there, and I bought it for maybe $20, maybe even less than that. It's just such a forgettable, kind of synthetic, something remotely reminding you of something floral and citrusy. It was just so boring. It was so boring. It was nothing of a perfume. Unless you have too many gourmands in your collection and you need to break it down with something that's spring floral, maybe. Or if you're buying a first ever fragrance for your teen, it's cheap, it's fun, it's well made. It's just not worth the few minutes that I've been talking about it on air. Sorry, not sorry. It's gone. We're not going to go back to it. Continuing the theme of light, ethereal, flowy perfumes, this is what we're here for today, guys. This is the funeral of my enormous and last bottle of Burberry Body Tender Eau de Toilette. Just like with all the flankers by Burberry, they went way too far with nesting the flanker names, so it's a mouthful. Burberry Body Tender Etat. This one, specifically this one, though the flagman Burberry Body is also pretty good. This is the most sensuous, soft, silky, musky in a slightly sour, softly sour musky rose, with some subtle bitterness. For some reason, I thought of it as some watery, bitter floral. It's not bitter as YSL blouse is. It's just so sensual, so soft. To me, it's like a fresh Parisian Rose. Beautiful perfume. I enjoyed it. I realized that perfumes like that don't have much of a shelf life, I warn you. I was a bit more than half down when I noticed that it started losing its top notes. And you always know when the top notes are no longer there. That magical first 2 minutes when the fragrance just is in the air were no longer as delightful and subtle and sensual as I remembered them, because I know this fragrance very well. And I was on the mission to finish it up before it completely spoils. Yep, this is it. I loved it. It was beautiful. It was 60 ml, but it looks massive. It is discontinued, and I have nothing in my collection that comes even close, even remotely close to the subtle old money luxury effect that this fragrance was giving me. If you have any recommendations for subtle, musky but not sour, not bitter, just sensual, soft, rosy scents, let me know. I'm sure there is an army, but I find they're rarely that balanced. It's either too rosy or too musky or this or that. It's very hard to find a balance that is just so luscious but not distracting you in any particular direction. It's a tragedy, and maybe one day another scent will give me that feeling. I understand that the profile itself is gone, it's gone, but maybe the feeling, the perception of it can still be reincarnated someday. Another fresh fig, but very expensive option is Dioriviera. Dioriviera is one word. It's a boutique line by Dior that contains, to my knowledge, a lot of not so bad perfumes, which I think is kind of a low performance bar for a boutique line from such a prestige level designer brand. In that sense, even Chanel managed to do better. Not that they delight me very often, neither of them, but Dior really needs to step it up, I feel, with their fragrance design. Dioriviera is pretty much Molinard Figue, just with milkier, creamier fig. But to that end, I think I'm like a broken record. Philosophus Eau de Parfum by Diptyque is gonna deliver you on every aspect of milky fig without being too sugary or heavy creamy or overpowering. Philosophus Eau de Toilette, which is my personal choice of a fig fragrance, is more green, is more fresh. Why do we need to spend, what is it, $200, $300 or something that is pretty much an equivalent of $50, $60 perfume? It evades me. Why does this need to exist? Though I imagine if you're a Dior client, let's say you're all the way Dior, your family is a legacy family, and you have 2 teen daughters you're gonna celebrate the Sweet 16. So you do a whole spree of shopping for beautiful dresses and this and that and accessories, and you just want to throw in just a pleasant creamy figgy perfume to your massive, I don't know, 100,000 Dior order, then it kind of makes sense. It's just kind of like there. It's pleasant creamy fig. But to that end, if you really want super charming creamy milky fig fragrance that combines all the trends in one and it's super flirty, I would recommend you look at the newer version of that, which is Ex Nihilo Generations. Try that in Neiman Marcus, and I was pleasantly surprised just how well they wrapped it up. First, you get this charming, well-rounded, milky, not too sugary, not too creamy, not condensed milk, just very charming, well-rounded, creamy, figgy, fruity fragrance. But at the end, you catch on the trend of Le Labo Sandal 33, but in a more digestible form. So you get this milky / cucumbery santal as the second phase of the fragrance lifetime. So you kind of get both trends, milky figs and somewhat cucumbery dill type of a santal at the end of it. It's both of them hit those two flirty, young, very teenage friendly olfactory universes at the same time. Ex Nihilo Generations, in my view, is a better option if you have, money to burn and there is somebody's Sweet 16 coming up. That would be my choice. Yeah, Dioriviera is just kind of meh. As I mentioned, when it comes to fruity, light, ethereal fragrances, I like White Line by Laboratorio Olfattivo. I finished my travel of MyLO and I already got myself a full-size 100 ml, largest bottle that they have. So, replacement and a confident favorite. To me, MyLO and None kind of smell similar but different. They give me these like freesia plus watermelon / honeydew type of a fruity feel, like a milkshake with potentially honeydew. Love them both. I sometimes even forget what's the difference between them, but I have both in full size now. So MyLO finished the travel. I already got myself a backup, a replacement. And this was a long time coming goodbye. Also, kind of a similar story as here, just a slightly different set of accents. This is Etat Libre d'Orange Dangerous Complicity. This particular Etat Libre d'Orange is very demure and subtle, which was fairly odd for them at the time, but since then they made so many mediocre perfumes that I guess it fits in now. Just to mention, she's an anomaly. It's such a nothing of a perfume, similar to actually the recent Margiela releases. Afternoon Delight. What was that? This is kind of in the same storyline, but a little better, a little more interesting. We have white rum, somewhat sour musk with something rosy / fruity in the middle. So kind of coconutty rum that comes and supports this light, flirty, very easy to wear, charming composition. I loved it. I enjoyed every drop of it. So all the 50 mils were well spent. It was one of my nude perfumes, a cuddly perfume, something that you just can bathe in. That said, I have a whole collection of nudie perfumes, and right now I'm kind of obsessed with milky but very transparent, almost molecular, soft sandalwood perfumes. And my very primary favorite is Cozumel by Laboratorio Olfattivo, also white line. It's pretty much how I wish my skin smelled at all times. So when it comes to nude perfumes, I've got quite a collection to go through. I miss a lot of them. I need to give them more wear. So this is a good buy. Dangerous Complicity, I can always recommend if you see it disgustingly cheap and you could always add another nude. But is it special? No, I don't think so. And since we are on a Etat Libre d'Orange kick, these two, it's 4 ml total, these two factory samples were incredibly hard to finish. This is Experimentum Crucis, their more expensive line with colored glass and tarnished gold labels. I have rather conflicted feelings about Etat Libre d'Orange approach to that line. Let me see if I can. It's very dangerous because Experimentum Crucis. Okay, I'm not gonna go with the spray. Experimentum Crucis is kind of like they have quite a few roses who are just very punchy, and this particular one is the epitome of chemically punchy, just the rose that just it's like piercing through metal. It's so screechy, it's so loud. I imagine there is some kind of amberwood, ambermax. So there's something here. There is something here that drills into my brain. On the positive side, if you want your kitchen towels to smell of these wild metallic rose for a week, 2 sprays will do it. It took me forever to get through these. And as I said, I use them mostly on objects, not on people. And since we're on the vibe of drilling the brain with fragrances, genius and prohibitively annoying. Frederic Malle Rose Cuir. I have a travel, which is, I think, 10 mil. I decanted it into a 5 ml bottle, travel spray, and it's been 2 years, if not more, as I've been heroically trying to get through this 5 ml, and I still have 5 to go. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. This is the most annoying, forever lasting, brain drilling green leather. I have some green leather scents, including Cambochard by Grey, those like isabutylquinoline style leather scents that are just very they are not heavy or smoky, they are more just like drilling, very, very annoyingly bright. Plus rose, that doesn't make this any softer in my view. This is green rose that just invades the space. At some point I tried to use it as a car deodorizer, kind of just to do one spray, but one spray of it was so powerful that even with the AC coming in, you needed to let it settle for a couple of days before you could ride in that car. I don't know what they put in here, but this is lethal. If you're looking for something that will confidently last as this fresh, zesty green rose that will last confidently over 2 days after application, this is it. I'm just not sure that you will be alive to enjoy the effect because it just doesn't leave you. I was hoping to get anosmic to it, but my brain refused to stop noticing this green drill getting through my nose into my brain. I don't know what to do. I will have to find a second home for what's left of that travel. This is just can't do. It's not doable. So this is not a Frederic Malle that I'll be buying anytime soon. Some freshies or florals that I usually use in the morning. A decant of a full bottle that I have in my collection, Parfum Général Morning in Tipasa. Supposed to smell like mojito, which it does. A bit of underwhelming sillage and longevity. So not much of a diffusion, not much of a opening, not much of a longevity. So I usually layer mojito, tropical, fresh scents like that with something more substantial. I overlay Tipasa most often against Cabochard. I like to elevate that leather scent, and if you want to hear more about my favorite layering compositions and principles, how to layer fragrances, there is a video on Perfume Nation podcast about that. It's easy to find on my channel. And the other one is my recent obsession, and I made a whole video based on this blind buy. Used up a decant. I think I'm almost done with my second one, and the third one is in my purse. The Different Company After Midnight. The most sensual, breathable, beautiful jasmine like white floral scent. I have so many jasmines. These just knocked everything out of the park. It is sensual. It is not animalic, and it's not too jasmine-y, if you know what I mean. And the way it lives on the skin. You spray it on paper, you're not gonna get the full effect. On skin, and when you walk around in heat of the Florida heat, there's is just magic. It just transcends what I know of jasmine scents. And it's so easy to wear at the same time. It's flowy. It's not animalic. It's not drilling. It's not annoying. It flows so beautifully. A surprise favorite. A surprise favorite because the concept is not particularly complex here. This little it's never enough for me to actually make an informed decision when I have samples that small. However, I'll tell you a few words. Nomenclature, a molecular, kind of contemporary olfactory design niche company. Their bottles look like a chemical set in a way. And this is Nomenclature Shi-sõ. Japanese mint. It was fun. It's a little minty. It kind of gives me molecule number 2, kind of like synthetic patchouli feel or some synthetic sour musk with a hint of mint. Not something I would come back for, but it was cute. It was cute. I would consider buying the full-size bottle, not gonna lie, if it was dirt cheap. But otherwise, I'm happy to let it go. These two, we're going toward legacy French perfumery, borderline beast mode type of compositions here. And the first one, I forgot this scent. I bought a decant of Hermès Rouge to remind myself what the fuss is all about. I once bought it, I think for my mom. And then I bought it for her again. And then I decided to remind myself what this is about. This is a dusty rose, very rose-centric scent by Hermès. But there is something here that is very vintage and dated and not particularly translating well into modernity. I have so many opulent, beautiful rose scents that even though I completely worn it down, 8 ml is not little. That's actually a really good size to wear on yourself to make a informed decision. No. I'm not sure if Rouge by Hermès survived the test of time. If it's your favorite, absolutely. It's part of history. I'm not going to argue with that. It's a classic. But would I ever recommend it to somebody who hasn't been a devotee of vintage or old school French perfumery now? You know, somebody who is just starting to explore perfumery. That would not be my first guess, not the second, not the third, and even not the 100th. So as a part of history, respect. I don't find it to be wearable now, especially for untrained noses. So that is a pass. On some way, I enjoyed wearing kind of the 80s on my chest with Hermès Rouge, but I'm not gonna buy a full-size bottle. I'm not gonna chase the vintage. No, this is not that kind of shadow from the past that I intend to carry forward. This. I keep mentioning it, and people keep ignoring that this is the most vivacious, complex, and complete paintings of pepper spices that exists in the niche market or in perfume market, possibly period, like overall. This is a decant. I made 6 ml decant, maybe it's 8, of Salvatore Ferragamo La Commedia. It's their boutique line. Not many people know about it, but you still can find La Commedia online. The spiciness of this, I think the level of spiciness here is just unheard of. It gives you both almost meaty and sweet Szechuan peppers, black pepper, pink pepper, white pepper, all kinds of peppery spiciness that you can imagine is here. This is hot stuff. It has incredible projection. It fills the room instantly. Very few fragrances can compete with this. and still, not to be one of those hazard cleaning the crime scene liquids, as I call them, or windshield wiper liquids. This is still a perfume. It has longevity, it has projection. It's the most incredible peppery, spicy perfume I've ever tried. It took me probably 2 years to finish up that much. Little goes a long way. If you're not sure if you can handle a full-size bottle, it's a large bottle, get yourself a decant. 5 ml will last you as long as you need to live with that olfactory design. I'm not sure anybody even needs more than 5 ml of this, but this is truly extraordinary composition. Never have seen anything like that, and I'm not sure if I ever will. Francis Kurkdjian Feminin Pluriel. Thanks to my subscriber, I got to try a fairly extensive collection of Francis Kurkdjian fragrances. This is, to me, is kind of powdery, sour violets, and I worn it as long as I could, all 5 ml on myself, and I have nothing but regret. Feminin Pluriel is probably a decent representation of violets in perfumery. Unless you like more gourmand and candied violets, then just go with Guerlain. You can go wrong. They're the kings of violets in perfumery. But Francis Kurkdjian with Feminin Pluriel did a decent job. It's just one more time I confirm that those violet-centric perfumes are not for me. It's just not my floral. I don't know why. I thought maybe years ago when I tried it and didn't like them, I was just too young. My nose wasn't trained. I wasn't cultivated enough. Well, I think like decades later, I'm cultivated enough, all right? I've tried and worn so many, so different olfactory designs, and still violets just don't cut it for me. I don't know why. It's not meant to be. So neither Francis Kurkdjian perfumes, there's nothing that I want from that line. No, the violets or any perfume that's centric on that accord are gonna make any appearances in my hauls or in my collection anytime soon. Sorry, not sorry. Just don't see the value there. A new fragrance house for me, Parfums de Rosine. I'm not sure they still exist. They were really fighting for their place under the sun in the recent 5 years. But their core collections were devoted to all kinds of aspects of rose. That's a safe bet, but even that, despite the rose being one of the most multifaceted and rich and complex genres in perfumery, eventually you run out of novelty and seductive options to keep attracting attention to yourself. I have never found a rose that I liked. There, I said it. Here I have Glam Rose, which is... They all to me were just sour, musky Bulgarian roses. This is no exception. But just a few different facets. A lot of super sour green patchouli here. This like typical sour patchouli rose musk situation. Doesn't do it for me, it just doesn't. So I looked at what they have, Parfums de Rosine. You can find them with decent price online. It's just nothing there stood up to me. So with that perfume house, if you have your favorites, please let me know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. But no. And again, we're so overwhelmed with so many niche perfume houses. It feels like it's not a big loss to skip on a few. I almost feel glad when I come up with a confident decision not to pay attention to a particular brand or perfume house. It just brings me relief because there's way too much going on. A wish list with a question mark. This is Eccentric number 5. The molecular line, Eccentric. And I think it's Javanal or Cashmeran. Maybe number 5 is Cashmeran. I think that's it. I dig it. I dig it as a bright green, sweet, kind of smells like patchouli to me a little bit. It's a fun scent. It's zesty in the way that I prefer to classical zesty patchouli scents. I keep thinking about buying at least 30 ml and see if I can wear it. Unfortunately, this decant was in my storage for way too long, so I barely wore it. Maybe 2 ml at most. I really enjoyed it, long lasting, mind you, and fairly complex for molecular perfumery brand, though eccentric line has more components than just one. So eccentric number 5 does go on my wish list. I'm just not sure I'm in love with it to really wear it. It's just a situation, I like it. It's interesting. It has all the right technical characteristics. But would I really wear it? Considering everything else that I have. That I'm not so sure about. So eccentric number 5 in my wish list. Also, from the same brand, I am open to buying quite a few molecules and trying their Molecule Plus. The M Plus line, I'm very intrigued by. I'm intrigued by Molecule Plus Ginger, plus I think they have tea, like a lot of them. That's, to be honest, I'm kind of curious about. So we might revisit this sometime soon. And if you have recommendations or warnings, maybe some of it is oversold. Maybe it's not as good as a proper perfume house that doesn't go after this primitivism and simplicity. Let me know in comments down below. I'm intrigued. I shouldn't be, but I am. And we're going to finish with a bang. These 2 perfumes that I'm going to show you, full size empty bottles that are never to come back, are part of history. Ambers, Rouge Bunny Rouge. For not quite known to me reasons, is one of the most celebrated ambers in the niche perfume market from a brand that almost nobody knows. People don't really know about the black line or the white line from Rouge Bunny Rouge, and as far as I know, that is all discontinued. I'm not even sure if the brand exists. Maybe it does with its makeup line, but I'm fairly sure their perfume line is gone. It's discontinued. I have quite a collection. I really like the black line. It's Brothers Grimm dark tale fairy tales universe is delightfully creative, well-made, and very unique bottles. It's truly a work of art. Really great stuff. Super sad it wasn't recognized at the time, and now it's too late. Ambers, though, broke out of Neverland of niche brands nobody knows about. A lot of people know ambers. I tried it when I bought it, and to me it was like, okay, it's a spicy amber, fine. Not my favorite, but it's fine. But as soon as I put this bottle on the shelf for share on the MyLO it just flew, like the decants flew off the shelves like hotcakes. So all of the 50 ml here is what you guys have purchased. The people, the perfume nation, demanded their decant of ambers, and before I knew it, it's gone. And that's the only bottle I have, so that's over. That's the conversation that we're not going to have again. Apparently, it's a cult amber. If you know anything about ambers by Rouge Bunny Rouge and why they're so popular, is there any context to that? Any story? I was surprised because I have a lot of cool, rare, amazing perfumes that I list there that are discontinued or hard to find. I managed to source us Anglomania to share. I mean, I would understand if Anglomania was, gone in a flash. I think a lot of people know it really well. Vivienne Westwood is celebrated, and that was a really popular designer release at the time. A lot of girls wore it, including me when we were young. So I would understand the nostalgia to catch the whiff of Anglomania again. Ambers, it's so niche. It's so not mainstream. Kind of curious what's the story here. Yeah, but whatever the history is, it's over, and I think I'm gonna keep the bottle. It's just, you can't see it here. It has edging of magical dark forest on the sides. It's my kind of jam, kind of dark academy stuff. And many of you recognize the bottle. The last decant of Mona Diorio I sold. Mona Diorio Vetiver. Unfortunately, the way that it's made, there's still a leftover there that I cannot reach in any shape or form. If any of you wants it to cannibalize the bottle and maybe extract what's left, happy to swap it with something else if you want to like swap decants or something. Mona Diorio make is almost unparalleled. And the story is so tragic, and her professional career is so unorthodox. It's like she was born in the wrong century, and everything that was happening to her was so out of our pedestrian capitalist ordinary way to build a perfumer career. Everything about her was just so some kind of bygone era. And her tragic, untimely death, and how her house went through the turmoil and ceased to exist. And now these bottles, some of them go like for thousands of dollars, if at all. People who still have Mona Diorio bottles, and I do, I'll leave a link below, but I can't guarantee that when you open it, there's going to be anything there. People hold on to those bottles for the sake of historical artifacts, like dinosaur bones almost. So, yeah, we're never ever gonna smell this again. It was a beautiful, complex, kind of oily vetiver. The Mona Diorio compositions were always you smelled a lot of nature in it, but in a very condensed way. Her perfumes to me were always very dense, very rich, but also sad, melancholic. There was rarely ever any flirtatiousness or, ethereal joy. That's not about these perfumes. They were very nested and almost heavy. There was some heaviness in them that was very aristocratic. So, bye, baby, bye. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And those of you who managed to snatch a decant, congratulations. The last time I Googled, nowhere to be found. It's gone. It's gone. Right, for our magical accounting, how much of my own perfume collection have I used up? I only counted the drops and the milliliters, what I used on myself. If I was using a perfume to decant, or if I was using a perfume to deodorize kitchen towels, I did not count that. You know how much? 205 ml. Plus minus 1 ml. And I'm not even counting the sprays from my other decants or perfume bottles. Unless they're empty, I'm not counting that. 205 ml. I feel very proud of my progress. I don't know why it gives me such a kick. Because I guess when you try a lot, when you wear a lot, when you have too much, because I don't want to call myself a collector. I don't buy with the purpose of get all Pokemons in a row. And I don't buy with a pre-thought of reselling later or just keeping things on display. I buy to wear. And mostly that works. So the fact that I just showed you a usage of 205 ml, obviously over an extended period of time, that makes me feel like a very proud frag head. What about you? What have you been finishing up lately? Do you actually ever focus on a few perfumes to finish something up, or do you just not care? I find with things of like the legend here, it still brings tears to my eyes. Once you feel it's about to go, you better finishing up. Things don't last forever. no wine, no liquor, no perfumes. Even if you store them correctly, life moves on. The chemical compositions do interact within each other and with air and with heat, with everything, with humidity. So nothing is truly hermetic, not truly insulated. So we better enjoy it while we can. Which is partially why I added such rarities that are almost unheard of for people to share to my perfume shelves that you can shop, that you can try things from, because I think it's important to share. I enjoy it. I enjoy making every single sandbox. I would rather people know what Mono Dior is all about, or one of those rare perfumes that are very hard to find and just impractical to keep getting bottles blindly full size. It brings me joy, and it brings joy to a lot of people. So if you are looking for something special, the links are down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be waiting for your reports, for your comments, for your recommendations. And I hope this was, if not useful or informative, at least somewhat entertaining and elevated your spirits today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because then what? Then we'll see each other in the next video.